Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.1, Mansfield.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden, because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. It's just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Welcome to Sparking the Conversation. We are 33 Forever. I'm Donna Heck, and this is my husband, Jeff, and we are so excited to be here to be able to share with you weekly half-hour messages, stories, resources, all surrounding mental health topics and challenges. Now, this show's purpose is to bring hope, information, and inspiration, making conversations about mental health the norm.
Our guest tonight is Sandy Williams. Sandy's a suicide survivor, having lost her father to suicide in 2011. She's turned her loss into action and advocacy, as she currently serves as board president of the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation. She's also the president of Jerry's Walk, Illuminating Suicide Awareness, a charitable organization established by her family in the Ohio Valley area. Sandy's also a licensed attorney in the state of Ohio, and she's a former Mansfield resident. So, Sandy Williams, welcome to Sparking the Conversation.
Thank you.
We're really happy to have you here tonight.
Good to be back.
Yes. So we know each other. We've gotten acquainted with each other through a shared experience.
Yeah.
A very difficult one. And that's kind of what we want to talk to you about tonight. We want to talk to you about a little bit about your background, but we want to hear about your dad. And so tell us about your dad, would you?
My dad was so great, and thank you for asking the question, because I find in doing this work, people focus on his death, and they unfortunately didn't know him in life, and that breaks my heart. I wish people had known him, so I like to talk about who he was, not just how we lost him. He was so fabulous. I mean, he was an executive with Kroger, constant jokester, but he was a proud girl dad, as they would say these days. A couple of my favorite memories, when we were little, my mom was trying to teach us a lesson about, if you want that Barbie dream house, you have to save for it. That lasted a week, and then at breakfast, my dad stuck the money under the table. Don't tell your mom, and we literally didn't. We go to the store, and she was so ticked off. We have the money, we can buy this. And, but that's who he was. That's who he was. And then a story, actually, I shared with you yesterday, which is just tells you who he was with me. I had graduated from law school, was a practicing attorney, lived on my own in Columbus, and I was home for Christmas. My mom was with my sister who had a baby, and so she wasn't there, so it was just my dad and I. And after dinner, we're doing dishes, and there was a large knife, and my dad's like, "Oh, no, dear, you can't wash or dry that. You might hurt yourself." And I'm like, seriously? I literally do survive day to day, but that was my dad. He was just always the protector. So he was just a fabulous person.
That's incredible. That's a wonderful story, and we feel the same way. It's their life that we really want to talk about, and bringing his whole story to. You have a nonprofit that you started. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it took us a while. I'm inspired by you saying, and a couple days later, you just knew you had to do something. It took us more like a couple of years. Jeff, you can probably appreciate this. As an attorney, I knew I had to figure it out.
Right.
Literally, as I was standing at the gravesite the day we buried my dad, I said, "I'll figure this out. You're not going to be a statistics. I'm going to figure this out." So I just started reading and trying to understand. And as I did that, I just kept going, "Oh my gosh. He did that, the warning signs. He did this. He told us this. He said that. He acted this way." And it was really distressing. But it just emboldened me to say, I got to do something about this. It's not enough to understand it. So my mom, actually, as we talked, she one night said, we need to do something. And so we decided there really wasn't anything. My mom lives in St. Clairsville, Ohio, which, as you mentioned, is in the Ohio Valley. And there really wasn't anything there in terms of suicide prevention. So we started Jerry's Walk to do an annual walk to raise awareness. Honestly, the first year we thought, this is a tough subject, to get people to talk about. And we actually had a meeting with some folks that we knew had also lost people to suicide. We invited maybe 20 people and 2 showed up. But we said we're going to plow forward. And amazingly, the first year we did the walk, we had 120 people show up. So it was
amazing.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yes, that is
great.
incredible.
And Jerry was your dad.
Jerry was my dad.
And your dad, you mentioned an executive, a big job, in charge of a lot of people, a lot of responsibility. Later in life, you began to notice that, or began to be aware, or maybe even after the fact, after you lost him, became more aware that he had some struggles. He had some depression problems.
Yeah, he did. He was so just everywhere when he was working, right? Everybody knew him. Kroger is a big employer in the area. He rode the elephant in the Christmas parade, all that kind of stuff. So everybody knew him. When he retired, he told us he wanted to take a step back. And we said, well, you earned that. That's okay. But after a while, I was pushing him a little bit, going, Dad, maybe you want to get out. People still want you on boards. They want you, to be involved. And he said, I don't have anything to offer anymore. And he just kept withdrawing. Then he started having a few health problems. And he had a really slight heart attack. He ended up having prostate cancer, very early caught, very treatable, but that just brought him down. And then in the last year of his life, he ended up having tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears. And he couldn't cope. I mean, he was trying. I could see he was trying. But he told me, he said, I go to sleep and I wake up and it's worse. And as you know, when people are struggling with depression and anxiety, lack of sleep is just the worst thing. So it was the perfect storm. And he told us, that's what's so frustrating to me. He told us on more than one occasion, it's like, if I ever get to the point where I don't have control, I will take my own life. In the last few months of his life, he kept saying things like he was going to do this, and we didn't believe him. We did not believe him because we believed that old wives' tale that says if somebody talks about it, they're not going to do it. And I now know if he's talking about it, he's normalizing it, he's accepted it, and he's telling me that he's going to do it.
Okay, well, we are, I hate to take a break right now, but we do have to take a break from our sponsors, and we'll get back and talk a little bit more about Jerry.
If we could say one thing to her, I think what we would let her know is how important she was to us.
And I wish that I hadn't been so reluctant to confront him.
Be a friend, listen to him, and get him help.
I am so glad someone reminded me that I'm worth it and will always be worth it.
I'm glad that I have people now that support what I want to do in my dream of helping other people.
Life Services, a comprehensive behavioral health organization, has been serving the community for 70 years. Our wide array of wraparound services and our ability to treat the whole person is what sets us apart. It's everything you need in one place: mental health, crisis, detox and addiction services, case management, and peer recovery support. We even offer vocational programming to get you back to work. Catalyst Life Services. Call today and get the help you need.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until Nano. Call now and you'll get your Nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-982-6169.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We are here with Sandy Williams. Sandy is she is a fellow suicide survivor, and the bonds that we have, it's heartbreaking, but we just know each other. We know the core.
And we're sorry for your loss. You know, we
Thank
didn't
you.
say that at the outset.
And I for yours. Yeah, it's the club nobody wants to be a member
That's
of,
exactly
right?
true.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, you shared the perfect storm about your dad and when he took his life. The one thing that there's two major thought processes here that you know, you said you didn't want your dad to be a statistic. I never wanted Danny to be a statistic, but you said to us that he went into the hospital for a weekend.
Yes.
Tell a little bit about that,
Yes.
and then when he did ultimately take his life.
Yeah. He was recognizing that he was in trouble. You know, even though he talked about this, I don't think he had ultimately decided he would do it, but he recognized that he was losing touch. And so one night he said to my mom, please call the police, tell them to come get me because otherwise I'm going to end it. And so my mom did that. He voluntarily put himself in the hospital for a 72-hour hold. You know, and maybe you hear what you want to hear, but I talked to him during that time, and he sounded like my dad again. You know, for a while he hadn't sounded like my dad. He was very calm. He was like, I'm fine, this is fine. There are so many people here so much worse off than me. And I've given them my phone number, and I told them, you call me if you need help. But, you know, but at the same time, when he would talk to me, he was like, but don't you ever worry about me. You just take care of your mom. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. You take care of your mom. So, yeah, so he was in the hospital for 72 hours. They used, at the time, something called a mental health contract. Mm-hmm. And they made him sign this contract that would say, if you don't see a psychiatrist within a week of the date that you leave, we will come and involuntarily commit you to the hospital. In my opinion, that signed his death warrant because, again, he kept telling us, if I ever lose control, if I'm ever in a situation where I don't have control over my life, I will take my life. And so I got out of the hospital and he made the appointment, but he died before he could see the doctor.
So, Sandy, one of the things that we know from our reading and from our studying, and I know from yours as well, is that suicide is a significant problem with older adults,
yes,
especially older men.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's the fact that you know, your dad's a very successful guy, used to being in charge, used to people needing him. You already mentioned he didn't feel like he had much purpose anymore. Some of those kinds of things, and then he's having health problems.
Yeah, right.
Tell us what you know and what you've learned about suicide and some of the older population, especially guys. You
know, and it is amazing. I mean, I have learned, again, after studying about my dad, that the people who are most at risk, honestly, for suicide are men over 85. People think this is really, you know, something that happens to teenagers, right? But the segment of society that dies the most by suicide are men between the ages of 45 and 65. Right. You know, for every attempt by a teenager, for every 100 attempts, there's one suicide. When you get at people, especially men over 65, for every 4 attempts, there's a suicide. So it's just, you know, statistically, yes, it's crazy. And I think the problem, you know, again, becomes it's people get older and they become more isolated. Mm-hmm. They do feel like a burden to their family and friends. It becomes easier, quite frankly, because maybe their health isn't as well. So what could be an attempt in a 25-year-old ends up being a suicide in a 75-year-old. But we don't pay enough attention to it, in my mind. Mm-hmm. You know, again, we're worried about younger people, and we should be, don't get me wrong. But too often, older people kind of get lost in that because they die, and maybe it's not even investigated to see if it's a suicide.
You know, Jeff and I are part of the Richland County Suicide Coalition, and that is exactly the statistic. Almost all, the percentage is probably 90% is 65 and older. They're men.
And mostly men.
Yep. And it does it. It's just so sad, and the awareness just has to be there. And I thank you for being on the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation board. Same with Jeff, just to try to, you know, make a difference, make awareness.
A couple of the things that OSPF is doing that I'm really excited about is, number one, they are starting a study on men and suicide. They're starting to work with people to really focus in on that, which is so critical. And the other thing they're doing, kind of gruesome, but it's actually called, it's an autopsy, but it's a psychological autopsy. And they're training people to, after a death that appears to be a suicide, to talk to families, to try and find out, what was happening, what led up to this. And I think this will help us, especially with older people, if this kind of becomes the norm, to find out, no, that person didn't just die in their sleep. They, maybe kept some pills that somebody didn't know about, or, whatever. So I think it's going to be really helpful for people to understand, because that's what it's about, right? Until we get rid of the stigma about talking about this, it is never going to end.
Well, and I think the thing that you said is really important, because, we know as family members losing someone to suicide, we've done that post-mortem, whatever you want to call it. We've thought about every aspect of everything we could think about. Some probably had something to do with it, some probably didn't. And I know you've done that with your dad. It sounds like you wanted to figure it out. You said that yourself. Yeah. So we've got to take another break. We'll be back in a little bit. Again, coming back with Sandy Williams. This is a great conversation. Sandy Williams will be back with us here on Sparking the Conversation after these messages.
Hi, I'm Joe Trollian, the Executive Director for the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. Addiction to drugs and alcohol create a personal struggle as well as impact those around you. You are not alone. We have many professionals and organizations who care. Reach out for help today. Know it before you need it. Visit know it, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, needit.com.
Brought to you by the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, growing and preserving a legacy of hope and success within our community.
Attention! If you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message, because Serenity can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S., specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote.
At 800-497-5677.
Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at
800-497-5677. That's 800-497-5677. Again, 800-497-5677.
What are you looking for?
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. I'm Donna Heck, and we are here with Sandy Williams, and we are very impressed with all the work you have done on the flip side of your loss. You are such an advocate for suicide awareness, suicide prevention. We talked about Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation Board, and you've been on that for how long?
6 years.
Okay. And go ahead.
I'm sorry. And before that, I was on the board of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Ohio chapter.
Okay.
And then we started Jerry's Walk, and so that takes up a lot of time.
So talk about Jerry's Walk just briefly, if you want to tell us a little bit about it.
Jerry's Walk is again, we started it as a walk, but the whole point is to awareness, to get people talking. As I said before, the stigma is what keeps suicide in the shadows and keeps people from getting help, right? And so we just need to start talking about it. So the whole point was to tell our story. We're like you, or it's like, okay, let's just say what happened. Mm-hmm. And use my dad's story to help other people, and I think he would have wanted that. So we do whatever we can in the Ohio Valley. Our latest project, which I'm so excited about, is we have been working with Belmont County Senior Services. training Meals on Wheel drivers who go to seniors' homes, because we're thinking so many times that may be the only person that senior will see for days.
That is
so
beautiful.
Yeah, so we're training them to recognize the signs. You know, has that person been wearing the same clothes for 3 days? You might, ask them, have they talked to their family lately? If you're noticing that maybe they're not eating much, or that, again, maybe there's medication there that doesn't seem to be moving. So I'm excited about that. And we were just in St. Clairsville, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, and I've been talking to some first responders to give them the same training for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a program that really could be expanded and great for starting in Belmont County.
Yeah,
and St.
I'm excited
area.
about it.
That's fantastic.
I'm real excited about that.
That's what Jerry's Walk's been doing, and then you're also the board chair.
Board chair of
Ohio
OSPF.
Suicide Prevention Foundation, and a board that I've recently been asked to be on, and you and I got to know each other. Actually, we found out we knew each other before in Mansfield,
lives,
didn't
right.
we?
Yeah,
back in the old
absolutely.
days. Yes, but so reconnected through OSPF, and tell us a little bit about your experience with that board and that group.
That's been so rewarding. OSPF is an interesting animal because it doesn't provide end-use services. But what it does is so necessary, because it is literally the voice of suicide prevention for Ohio. It coordinates the message, and it helps the coalitions that you're on and Jerry's Walk to say, here's the latest and greatest of what's going on. They're funding research. They're working with just all kinds of folks in universities and hospitals that are doing great work, and they're training people out the wazoo on all kinds of different things, how to work with people who have suicidal ideation, and we can't take that for granted. A lot of therapists and don't really like to work with people who have suicide problems.
We have found that too.
Yeah, so they have some great trainings, and I'm just a really big fan of. So I'm very proud of them. They went through a rough patch, but they've come out the other side really swinging, and the state's depending on them, and I know they're going to meet the challenge.
Yeah, and give yourself some credit too, because you were part of that coming through the rough patch, and great leadership. Great executive director, some outstanding folks that are involved.
Staff.
And so
Thank you.
Good for you, and good for OSPF. Very important organization.
The resources on your page is incredible. We have used that for 33 Forever. We've directed people there. You guys have a real handle on that. Sandy, the one thing before we end, hope. We always talk about hope. In your experience with everything from prior to losing your dad to today, what can you say about hope and where we're going?
And I actually have a story that just happened to us. As I said, we've got to talk about suicide. That's the only way we're going to wrangle it. And Jerry's Walk made some T-shirts for a camp for kids who are at risk. They're kids who are in foster homes and in otherwise bad life situations. And they asked me to write a little intro that they could read to the kids to describe Jerry's Walk. And so I told them, I'm like, you matter. You matter to me. I haven't met you, but you matter to me. So if you ever feel like you're losing hope, reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. And the person who did this said she was reading this and she choked up and couldn't finish it. And so she asked a young woman who had been talking about suicide to come up and finish reading that, which she did. Then the girl wrote a note to say, "Thank you for doing that. After I heard about Jerry's Walk, I realized that I do matter, and I'm not thinking about suicide anymore." And how much better does it get than that? So it just goes to, if you talk to people, if you let them talk, let them, really listen to them and listen to their pain and help them. I think I think we can give a lot of hope to a lot of people.
And we have to touch one life one at a time
One at a
sometimes.
time,
And
absolutely.
there's another life that
One at a time.
Jerry's Walk's touched, and your dad has made a difference. And,
Yes.
and so what a great legacy he's left, and through you and your family, Sandy. So we're so happy to have you been with us tonight.
Thank you very much
We
for
really
sharing your
appreciate
time, your story, your heart.
Right.
Thank you.
And we're going to be back in just a minute with our memory moment here on Sparking the Conversation on WMFD.
We are more than a counseling center.
More than just a medication or therapy session.
What do I like the most?
it's got to be the team.
Providing the highest standard of care, that's just what we do.
And equipping patients with coping skills to be successful, that's so important.
It's simple. We are just hopeful. We are hopeful for our patients.
We are hopeful that we can help them find their way to a better balanced and more resilient self.
We are Hope 419.
Visit us today at hope419.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-374-3671. That's 1-800-374-3671. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. This is our last segment of our show tonight, and it's the segment that we call the Memory Moment. And tonight, at the beginning of the show, we say we are 33 forever, and we thought maybe it would be helpful for our viewers to really understand where 33 Forever came from.
Yeah, we started 33 Forever, which is a nonprofit. We started it a week after we lost Danny, so that was in February of 2019, right. And we lost her to suicide, and our family just got together and close friends and knew we just couldn't let suicide win, so we started our nonprofit, and we are just doing everything we can just to spark the conversation, help people who are struggling. We do fundraisers.
We do. And the way that we came up with 33 Forever, the idea was Danny was 33 when she passed away. And we had talked, even in the few days after losing her, what would we call this organization? What would it be? And someone made it Forever 33, and we were a little afraid. I'm a lawyer, and I was a little afraid of getting sued by a certain company. So we decided that instead we were going to, we said 33 Forever, and we all just decided that was it.
Yep, that's when I got my Danny bumps. First time I got Danny bumps, covered with Danny bumps, and that was the name. It was official, yep. And then here we are, sparking the conversation.
Yep. So we're glad that you were with us tonight. We appreciate you joining us every week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week at the same time as we continue to spark the conversation here on WMFD.